we go now to the state of Florida, the Surgeon General there, man named Dr. Mark Ladapo, who got almost everything. Joseph Ladapo, man, I'm trying to give him a huge, great lead in. Got almost everything right on COVID. And Dr. Ladapo, we appreciate you coming on with us. I know that that you are super busy, but what in the world is going on with all the people still wearing masks all over the country? I mean, what do you think now when you see a young person still wearing a mask on an airplane flight or going in or out of a shopping mall or something like that, or even worse, standing outside somewhere as we see a lot of these protesters? As a doctor and also just as a human, what are your thoughts?
Well, it's complete mystery to me too. And actually, recently there's a doctor at UCLA named Dr. Catherine Sarkeesian, and she's a practicing doctor there. And she did something that I'm so glad she did. She talked to some of her medical residents, physicians in training who are wearing masks. And it turns out, it seems like some people, they just like to hide their face, which is a really sad testament to humanity and where we are right now with just how people have dealt with all the stress and all the social media disconnection and all the craziness. But part of the reason seems to be that some people like to hide their faces. Obviously, some people are still afraid and think that masks is going to help them, which is total nonsense, and that's really sad. But there is this phenomenon now, it seems, where people are trying to hide.
Dr. Ladapo, appreciate you being with us, and we always deal with the ongoing surprise, I think, here that there has just been absolutely not only a total lack of accountability for people who got a lot of this stuff wrong, but not even an admission of what was wrong. I mean, the authorities in so many places in the government, specifically CDC, NIH, they still, it seems to me, officially have a claim that masks do work. Where does that stand? Like, if I were to go on the CDC website right now, are they still sticking by that, or are they just hoping nobody notices? What is official medical apparatus guidance?
It's very sad. It's exactly what you're saying. They actually continue to advocate for mask wearing on the CDC's website. And they continue to ignore all of the clinical trials, which either show no benefit or such a small benefit that it's not even worth talking about. And just they focus on these lower quality studies that show these enormous benefits, which are just completely specious. And it's just so sad. And I can't wait till we get that leadership out and get some people who have more integrity into leadership at the CDC.
Do you feel like any of the people who got everything wrong are ever going to have to bear consequences for getting everything wrong? And just to kind of reiterate for people out there who have forgotten, if I remember correctly, your story is you were at UCLA, you've got a young family, you recognized that they were not in danger, and you started to speak out. And that's how Governor Ron DeSantis found you. And he said, man, we need this guy. And so you moved your whole family across country. And so correct me if I'm wrong on all that, because I do think your bio here and your life story matters in that respect. And how much better, I'm just curious, do you think your family's life has been as a result of that move that you made from California to Florida?
Oh, so much better. And, California is a beautiful state, Florida's beautiful too, but California is a beautiful state, and they're ruining it. I mean, it was terrible during the pandemic. By the time Florida was, people were living their lives here in Florida, and we were still in California dealing with hospitals. Even right now, my friend Dr. Vinay Prasad at UCSF, they're still masking in their hospitals. The hospitals masking, the Uber drivers masking, all this total nonsense, this social distancing crap. And, here in Florida, we don't have to think or worry about any of that. And we didn't have to do it, 2 years ago, but we really don't have to do it now, thanks to legislation that Governor DeSantis has pushed through and signed. I mean, it's like, it is dead. All that crazy stuff, the crazy mask mandates, the vaccine mandates, it's all DOA dead here in Florida.
We're speaking to Dr. Joseph Ladapo. His book is Transcend Fear, a Blueprint for Mindful Leadership in Public Health. What do we do about the fact that, I mean, Dr. Ladapo, if someone comes to me, and we're obviously having you on because we think you and the state of Florida, where I am a proud resident, are an exception to this. But if someone were to come to me and say, can I trust public health authorities in general? And then they laid out all the reasons why they may not. I don't have any answer to that. I mean, the fact that there has been not only, as I said, a lack of apology, but a lack of willingness to deal with the data as it stands now, which is irrefutable in the with the conclusion that masking is a joke, lockdowns were horrible, school shutdowns were a terrible idea, no benefit from it whatsoever. Vaccines didn't work nearly as well as they said that they would, if they really barely work at all. They won't admit anything. So why should people trust public health? I mean, you wrote a book about leadership. I mean, if I were president, I'd be like, maybe we scrap the CDC and start all over.
Well, the rational thing to do, of course, is not to trust them. I mean, why would you trust someone who has repeatedly lied to you, hidden information from you, like when they hid information about myocarditis, tinnitus, which is the ringing in the ears that happens after for some people and can be devastating, unfortunately. I mean, really devastating. Some people feeling like they can't even continue with their lives because of this constant ringing that they experience in their ears after taking these mRNA COVID-19 vaccines. So why would you ever trust someone like that? That's completely insane. And it's a double tragedy. It's a double tragedy because they do some things correctly. I mean, it's not in COVID, but there are other things that the CDC does do correctly. But because of all this integrity that they've spent and have no more of, people can't, it is completely rational for people not to trust anything. So people will miss out on the good things that they do, because they're trying to avoid the bad things and the harms that they've done. So it's obviously the sensible, rational thing not to trust someone who lies to you and who hides important information from you and who doesn't think that you are mature enough or have enough station to make decisions for yourself about your lives. I mean, that is clearly the rational thing to do in that type of relationship.
I'm just curious, and again, I'd encourage everybody to go check out your book, again, because you were right on so much having to do with COVID. Has anyone privately in the science community approached you and said, you know what, I bought into the fear. I thought you were crazy in 2020 and 2021, but it turns out you were right. Are you getting any of that behind the scenes, or do you think the people who now recognize they were wrong to support shutting down schools and wrong to support 2-year-olds getting COVID shots that had almost no impact and kids having to wear masks in schools, do they all just want to pretend none of this happened? I'm just curious behind the scenes whether anyone has acknowledged, you know what, you guys got it right in Florida. You got it right with your medical diagnosis. Or are they just now not saying anything? What are you experiencing, not only publicly, but maybe privately in the science community?
Yeah, sure. So I've got a note right now that I'm looking at, and it really warms my heart. It's a PhD professor at a large university in central north United States, who thanked me for sticking to the science. And she wrote a nice long note. I've never met her before, but it's a sweet note. And I do get those, and those especially when they. I mean, I appreciate them from everyone, scientists or non-scientists, but especially when I get them from scientists, it gives me some hope, because sometimes I do feel like, oh my gosh, could I be wrong? I'm out here on the ledge, alone or with very few colleagues, Dr. Peter McCullough, Dr. Harvey Reich, Dr. Robert Malone. So that does hearten me, but for the most part, and I hate to say it, but it's partly, I think, because of the effects of these mRNA COVID-19 vaccines. Most of the people who have to know that they were incorrect, they're just unable to get out of that box and come to the present and come to reality and own up to what they've done. And I do think that it is at least partly due to, as wild as it sounds, to these mRNA COVID-19 vaccines. I think it's affected some people's way and ability to think.
Joseph Ladapo, Doctor, Surgeon General of Florida. Go buy the book. Go read it. Transcend Fear, a blueprint for mindful leadership in public health. Doctor, we appreciate all the times you come on the show. Most important, Buck and I, we really appreciate the fact that you were honest, you were forthright, and you've been proven correct on so many of these issues. You and both Governor Ron DeSantis. Thank you.
Hey, thank you guys so much. Thank you for what you guys do too.
Check out that book. Look, are you like Biden? Do you sometimes think to yourself, 4 more years, pause? Would you go Ron Burgundy and read right off the teleprompter because you don't have the vim, vigor, vitality to just be able to get through the day? Are you already in bed sometimes by 5 or 6 o'clock like our fearless chief executive, Joe Biden? Maybe you could handle and need a little bit more testosterone in your life. That is what Chalk does. They will get your overall testosterone level, which is the engine that drives the male body, up 20% in 3 months. And that will help to erase. You know, I saw this stat, our friend Isabel, what's her last name, Allie? Look her up. Isabel, who had the book about Gen Z. I was watching a video from her on Instagram.
Brown.
She
Isabel
said
Brown.
the average American, Isabel Brown, that's right. She said the average American male in his 20s today has the same level of testosterone that a 70-year-old had 60 years ago. That is crazy.
Remember when
That's
grandpa
scary,
strength
Buck.
was a thing?
That is
I remember-
scary to think about when you really kind of break it down, that we could have ended up in that situation at all. And Chalk will help to handle that for you. They've got a supercharged spring sale on any subscription for life. Go to choq.com. Use my name, Clay, C-L-A-Y, as the promo code, and you'll get hooked up in a big way at chalk.com. That's choq.com. Promo code Clay. Get hooked up with some testosterone in your life so you don't walk and talk like Joe Biden. Chalk.com.